No, the Mick, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, nice one. Yeah.
Oh, it's technology.
Nice one, mate.
You're
How's it
looking
going?
well.
Oh, cheers, mate. I knew you. I'm in my bit of a dungeon at the minute in the cellar, but
You're in the cellar, are you?
yeah, get sent down here to do this stuff.
Haven't been sent to the dungeons then.
No, mate, I get made to come down here for this stuff, so it's out of the way. You in Belgium? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. How long you been over there?
Oh, well, I'm 61 now, and I think I was 30, about 31 years, I think.
Okay, right.
Oh, but yeah, but I was like, well, I just had a 30th birthday party in England, and I had to wait an extra couple of days until I recovered from the party, and then I travelled to Belgium back for the second time.
Okay. Did football take you over then?
Yes. Well, when I left Hull City, I went to Holland to a Dutch club, FC Wageningen, and here and a good friend of mine, Rob McDonald, which you know Rob obviously, and via Rob I went to Holland and then stayed in Holland for about 2 years, I think it was, and I was the only professional at the club because it was a semi-professional sort of club it was, and at the end of the day they had to let me go because of financial reasons. I don't think it was to do with my salary though, but it was. I think it was for financial reasons, and the Belgium club picked me up, and I went to Belgium. A team called Winterslag, and I think in 1982, I think it was, or I think in '82 they played Arsenal in the UEFA Cup the year before I joined them anyhow. And that year they just got relegated, and there was recruiting new players, so I most probably fit the gloves, so to say, and I went from Holland to Belgium. I was, I was there also for about 2 years, and I'd had a groin injury, and I was operated on. Eventually, I left there and went back to England, but we're starting here somewhere in the middle of
yeah.
everywhere. But I'll just wait until you fire the questions, and I'll try and answer them if I can remember.
No, yeah, like obviously, just go back to the start for a bit of context, I guess. Like, Hull lad. Yeah, what do you first remember about Boothferry Park?
I always remember about Boothferry Park when I was tell me now I get goose. Is it no? What they call it in English?
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
I have to excuse my English, by the way. My first impression, I always remember going to Boothferry Park, and I was stood in the south stand. And I don't know if you remember when you stand, and I was always behind the goal, just to the left hand side of the goal. And why I went to because Ian McKechnie, the goalkeeper, and when I used to stand behind the goal and the stand, and you had like the little terracing, and my chin just rested on the bars.
yeah.
Just rested on and I used to watch the game and like that. I watched the game, and I used to have a perfect view of Ian McKechnie taking his goal kicks after he picked up all his oranges and whatever. And that was my first impression of. I know it's a bit strange, but first impression. And because I was at that level of seeing him taking a goal kick, you could actually see I was just on the level of the pitch, and you could see that it was like a billiard table. You know what I mean? And you could smell the grass and the dew. You could smell the oils in Kekker's in his legs. I think he was. I didn't know that time. I was too young, but I think he must have just gone what they call it, a sunbed. I think he must have always gone on the sun because I can't see a brown Scottish guy. You don't see him that often because it's not warm enough. So he always had brown legs and his orange socks and his black boots, and and I suppose I learned something from him how to kick a ball and the technique of him actually taking with his left foot his goal kicks, And but that was my first impression of Boothferry. I always think and I always used to take that position up. Obviously, because I was too small anyhow to see above anybody else. So I always used to go about 2 hours before the kickoff, and before the doors was open, and try and always get to that place at that time. And that I'd always had the same place. But that was my first impression, and obviously, getting older, I think it was everybody's schoolboy's dream, mine too, of one day trying to play on that hollow set. It was such a fantastic. Actually, years on when I eventually did, it was everything that I expected. It was fantastic, beautiful surface, really was. And to this day, yeah, I knew it's all different now, but in the time that I was playing, all the surfaces that I've played on, I think, and also in different countries, that Boothferry Park was one of the best ones, and it broke my heart when I found out that it was going to be demolished. To be honest,
yeah,
I don't think, and I know the stadium what they have now. I didn't feel the closeness. I didn't feel the warmth. It felt like a real strange. Boothferry Park had like a home feeling, more of a warm feeling. And the stadium what they're in now, I prefer Boothferry Park. I know times change and progression. You have to look ahead, but I think in that respect, I think Hull City has went backwards, unfortunately. Whether it was I can't remember if it was their decision to actually leave. I can't remember whether it was the council. I don't know the ins and outs, but sad day when that got demolished.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, obviously, gained a lot with the stadium and the success, but we've definitely lost something with Boothferry Park, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to you now, and you know, I like I say, I get goose pimples thinking about Boothferry Park, and it was always my dream to one day try and play there, and I was, you know, obviously as we know, it did happen, and but as I say, it was a superb place. You know, even going a little bit further than what we on now is that even when I was an apprentice at the club, and we used to go into in the tunnel, and you had the tunnel at one of the away team dressing room and then the home team dressing room, and then in between you had the referees room, and then you had like the way out, and then you had the manager's office, and then you a little bit further on the left hand side you had the boot room, and then the kit room, and there was a little corridor, but on the side where you had to run out to the pitch, there was always like sliding doors, and there was always closed. It was sort of like something you're not allowed to do or go on to until you're actually ready. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And then sometimes it was open like a little piece like that. We used to try and open it a little bit to see if we could see through the grass. And at the time of the groundsman Stan Coombs, he was bless him, and really good groundsman was Stan. He used to kick our backsides many times if we stepped on the holy grass.
Yeah. So in terms of like signing or starting to play for City, like how did that come about?
Well, I mentioned him earlier, Ian McKechnie actually. I was playing as a young lad as Sunday League football. I think it was Boulevard United, I think it was at the time. We did change our names, and I can't remember now. It's age, I think, of heading too many goals. I don't know. But I can't remember now, and I can't remember which. We've played on a couple of names. And but Ian McKechnie was he used to come and he used to like coaches and what have you. And it was via Ian McKechnie that he sent me down to Boothferry Park, and I started going on Tuesdays and Thursdays to the gymnasium, and we had to report to Mr. Fred Smith and Pete Sissons, and these two gentlemen looked after us and took them was under their wings, and every Tuesday and Thursday, don't mistake me if I'm wrong, about 2 hours, 5 till 7 o'clock, and we did that for about 2 or 3 years, you know, and eventually that was my first introduction into the club via Ian McKechnie, and from then on I reached the age of 16, and the club then decided to take me on as an apprentice professional.
Okay. So did you always fancy yourself in terms of trying to get into that level, or was it just kind of a work in progress all the time?
Well, like I said about playing on Boothferry Park, I think it's everybody's. If you're into football at a young age, and I think it's everybody's dream to be a professional football player. And I think, you know, whether it's that like today now, I don't know, because it's totally different. But then it was, all we used to do was play football. I used to cost my mother a fortune in shoes, because I always had holes in my shoes because I was kicking them, well, kicking the ground more than I was kicking the ball. But yeah, it was always my ambition to be a professional football player, and obviously to play for my home club. So when that offer came around at 16 years old, which I don't think they do it now as an apprentice professional, it gives you the 2 years from 16 to 18 years old to establish yourself and prove yourself and do all like jobs around the ground and cleaning boots and picking the laundry up in the dressing rooms, and we used to train late in the morning or in the afternoon once all our jobs was done, and then we obviously have to prove ourselves. We started playing for the Hull City Juniors, and then you get promoted most probably from the Hull City Juniors to the Hull City Reserves, and from the Hull City Reserves to the first team. It's all in stages. So you actually learn your trade about football and about the other end of the stick, should I say? Which I think is good for young people, to be honest.
Did you have much interaction with the first team then when you're an apprentice?
We had our own dressing room. I think I had Rob and Noel telling me about it. We had our own dressing room, and obviously when you was climbing up the ladder and you was getting into the first team, you'd actually get promoted and you get out of that dressing room when you go into the first team dressing room. So, you know, when the time when Billy Bremner arrived at the club, and we all know what an icon Billy is, and smashing guy, bless him. Even when he came, I can remember going down to the tunnel just past the kit room and the boot room, and do the door open a little bit so you can get a little small glimpse of Billy Bremner, you know, through the little split in the door. And I remember that well. But eventually I got there to sit alongside of him and change with him, you know, smashing, unbelievable. But like we had our own dressing room, the juniors, the apprentices, and as you got up in rank, then you went to that dressing room, obviously. So
yeah,
something you always remember. We all started there. Even Gareth Roberts.
Yeah. And were you always an attacking player?
No. Sorry, that's my telephone going. No, because, well, yes and no. I started in the goal actually as a goalkeeper, and I stopped playing in goal, if I remember right, because I didn't think I was growing that much, and I was always on the smaller side, and I thought, so I started to play right wing at the school, Bethlehem Junior High School, and started playing on the right wing, and then there was another lad called Steve Worth, who was a very good footballer, but unfortunately never managed to make the grade, which surprises me, but anyhow. Steve Worth was a centre forward, and then I went to a centre forward, and I started playing as a striker, and yeah, I can't remember the exact age, but I had I played for Hull Sunday League 11 as goalkeeper. I was selected for one of the best goalkeepers of all under 11s. So I must have had something there. Anyhow, at a later stage, as we get further in the conversation, I did actually play a full half in the goal against Chesterfield when Nomo got injured.
All right.
He didn't come out for the second half. So
Right.
and we drew the game 0-0.
Ah, nice one.
And that was funny enough. I was at the goal at the South Stand, just where I stood as a little lad. Just never thought of that just now. Just realised. Yeah. I was in the South Stand. Frank to death I was.
I was going to say, like, did you prefer playing outfield?
Well, I did do, and during my time at City when I was an apprentice, I was actually then as a striker. Still trying to learn the trade, obviously, and I've always been since then. I've always been a striker from most probably being the age of 14, 15. Because after the under 11s, when I got selected for the representative side, I didn't seem to be growing that much, and and I just fancied it, and I went outside. I started playing outside, and that's I always fancied playing a striker. I liked scoring goals. I liked it in the back of the net.
Mm.
That appealed to me more than being a defender.
Yeah.
And so, like I say, I started with Hull City, and obviously Hull City had a junior side at that time, and Hull City Juniors in the Northern Intermediate League, I think they called it then. And I think I don't know if it was the first year or the second year, we actually won the league. We were champions, and me and Rob McDonald were the strikers. A bit of a smash and grab. Alan Warboys and Bruce Bannister. Well, Rob was a lot taller than I was, and a big broader than I was, but we had a really good partnership, Rob and I. And I think it was that year or the year after I got selected as the Young Player of the Year.
All right.
I think it was 77 or 78 when I was 17 or 18. I think 18 it was. And we used to have the Hull City Player of the Year dues. I don't know if they still have them now. I mean, it used to be in the nightclub. I'm 100% certain if it was in Bally High or in Tiffany's, the nightclub. We used to have it, and I got young Player of the Year. I think it was when I was 18. I got a little. I've still got it today. I think the son's got it now. Anyhow, he's home in Nottingham.
Oh, yes.
But I was really proud of that. And, that was a start, I thought, to hoping a long career at the club. But
yeah. I mean, that must be a big confidence boost.
As we later found out, that wasn't the case.
I mean, at the time, like you say, we've got a good junior team winning the league, and you're getting Player of the Year. You must have been flying at that point.
Yeah, it was. It was good. And even when Rob had left, and he was a year older than I was, and he was a stage fairer than I was. Then we eventually started. Then once you was good enough for the juniors and you were scoring a lot of goals, and he ended up always being top goal scorer. I went to the reserves. I got promoted to the reserves and started playing up front in the reserves. I was scoring regularly for the reserves. And in the beginning, you was in 1 week, out the next, one out the next, and I got a regular reserve team spot, and then eventually proving yourself at a higher level and being a little bit older as well, I got the chance to a couple of times to be on the bench for the first team, which as a local lad, I can only speak that it's a dream come true. Like Gareth Roberts, Rob McDonald, I'm sure the lads, Gareth had a really long career and a successful career, and he should be really proud of himself. And I think Hull City, and you're born in Hull, and it's your club, and like I said, I got goosebumps talking about Boothferry Park. I do get goosebumps about Hull City, and it was. I enjoyed it. And like I say about being a striker, I enjoyed being a striker. I enjoyed scoring goals. it was resulting in success, scoring plenty of goals, and eventually I got rewarded and eventually made it into the first team.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that come under Ken Houghton at the end of the 78-79 season?
Yeah, well, Ken knew us as well because he was our coach at the junior level as well. And obviously, because Ken had gone through the ranks as a player, and then from one coach, and then to the reserves, and then he eventually ended up being manager. And it was actually Ken who signed me as a professional at 18 years old, and which I was very thankful of, obviously. Ken didn't last that long at the job, unfortunately. I believe, not 100% sure in the right order, possibly that John Kay or Chris Chilton took over after Kenneth.
Yeah, is it Chris Chilton? Yeah.
I think it was Chillo. Yeah, Chillo. And obviously Chillo, fantastic guy, fantastic coach, perfect coach for a striker. Ask Billy Whitehurst about that; he will tell you. The guy just used to, when he used to jump up and head a ball, he used to hang there, and he taught us how to do it. You know what I mean? And things like that. And it was unbelievable. Even at his age, when he was teaching us, and he loved scoring goals, loved heading. You know what I mean? And he taught us a lot, and he gave along with Kenny, he gave him a chance to play in the first team at the club, which I'm very thankful for.
So what was that day like when you do come on to make your debut? Obviously very memorable.
I was sub against Exeter City. It was, and all of a sudden I got the call for warming up, and I started warming up. The legs like jelly, and then the tracksuit came off, and I went on, and obviously I can't remember much about it. To be fair, I think the emotion took over, and I can always amend you. I think the first or the second tackle, I got a yellow card for fouling a player called John Delve. That's a name that you never forget, because that was my first ever yellow card. And I think I'd only been on the pitch 10 minutes, so I was a bit over eager, I think I was. And and most probably because I was in the wrong area of the pitch. I was in the middle of the pitch in the midfield somewhere, and it's not somewhere where I'm not associated with. So I went in a little bit too hard, I think. Just enthusiasm as a young lad. The referee told me about that as well, but sorry, so he said, I'm still going to have to give you a yellow card.
But you won the game, so I mean, it must be satisfying.
Yeah. Just I didn't have much help in winning the game. Like I said, I can't remember that much. All I can remember is actually that I got a yellow card for it. I was obviously so proud of myself that I'd actually reached the stage of being a first team player, should I say.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't last that long.
Well, I was reading an article, old Daily Mail article about a pre-season tour you went on in 1979 in Holland. Sounds quite eventful.
Yeah, I was selected, and I can't remember. There was a player that couldn't go on. I think it was a player that was injured, couldn't go on. But I was selected out all the young players. Then I was selected, and I think it's because I was Player of the Year that year that I would be able to travel. The first time we went to Holland, and that was the first time I'd been abroad in my life as well. So, and we had a tournament there. We eventually reached in the final, and even Jeff Muff, his nickname Muff, had actually played in the game as well. Everybody says he was man of the match, but I think Mr. Ken Houghton will have something to say about that.
Yeah, is this Jeff Radcliffe, the physio?
Even the bus driver played.
Yeah.
Even the bus driver played. So we had that many injuries. We didn't have no choice.
But we still got to the final.
We got to the final anyhow, and we enjoyed it. It was a really amazing experience, to be honest. And I think even then, Rob and myself was then, although we didn't know it then, we was most probably in the public eye of the Dutch people or whoever, I don't know, because I think Rob eventually went to that area of Holland when he left the club.
Okay, yeah. And when I read that you were played against Ronald Koeman at one point.
No, that was Rob, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I'm not as old as Rob. Rob's an old man.
No, I meant in that tournament. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, yes, in the tournament when he played for Groningen. I was just trying to think. I got mixed up with his brother Erwin.
Okay.
I don't think Erwin was playing. Ron Koeman, yeah. But at that time, you didn't know who was who. You know what I mean? It was all a cloud. But yes, correct. Ronald Koeman did play, and he was still blonde as he is now. I can't understand why he's not grey. Can't understand why he's not grey. He's still blonde now, even till this day. So,
and also, go on. Sorry, yeah.
No, sorry.
No, I just read in that article that we took quite a good following over there as well. Is that right?
Oh, unbelievable! Old City's always had that. I believe even in bad times, you know what I mean. You've always had that faithful band of supporters, and they've travelled home and away, wind, rain, snow, whatever. Doesn't matter if it was Plymouth Argyle or York City. Even I was one of the supporters before I even joined the club, and I used to wear my scarves around my wrists and things like that, and walk with supporters to the ground and started singing and things like that. I was one of them, and yeah, always been a fantastic group of supporters. Always, that'll never change. The stadium will change, but the feeling and the passion for the club, that will never change. Don't believe that will never change.
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously talked about Chilo being manager. What was he like as a manager then?
But Chris was very honest, and he told you all the ins and outs about. He was actually a strikers coach. He could tell you all the ins and outs, when to make a run, how to make the run, how to hold your positional, your body language, how to head the ball, how to protect you. It was phenomenal. It was Chris, and I was very lucky because my dad eventually was a good friend of Chris, and when he lived in Thornball, I think it was Thornball.
Yeah.
Thornball, I think it was. And I've been to, after my time at the club, and I've been to see him quite a few times, and his wife, Gary, was a little lad at the time. And I've always been like a friend of the family as well, after the football and during the football time, and obviously you all respect him. You keep your distance, and it actually started that because my parents took in lodges for the apprentices, the light players that come out of town, and they came to our place for gigs.
Okay.
And that's how. And then Chris came to the house then and introduced himself to our family and brought the players, and that's how we really got to know Chris. But Chris as a coach he was really honest. He tell you there's all the ins and outs, and like I say, it was very, very helpful, and especially like I say, especially for a striker. And you must probably have spoken to Billy. I haven't seen it, but you must probably spoken to Billy Whitehurst.
No, I haven't yet. No.
Eventually, the day will come when you'll speak to Billy, and he'll tell you a lot more about than Chilo, because I think that is a very good example how someone can bring another player on, like Chilo brought Billy on to be the player that he was, because he wasn't that when he first arrived, and Billy will tell you that himself.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy as well. Lovely family. He used to be an artist as well. He used to paint. Chilo. I don't know if a lot of people.
All right. Didn't know that.
Very good painter. Chilo.
Oh, okay. Then Mike Smith comes in, who ended up playing, your most amount of games for with City? Like, what was he like as a character? I remember Rob saying, a bit of could be a bit of a mad character, maybe.
Well, to be fair, I think it's no secret he ruined my time at the club, and I think he ruined Rob's time at the club as well. Yeah, I think when he arrived was Cyril Lee and Bobby Brown, I think it was, and they gave him directly a 5-year contract. I didn't know at the time, but that was a signal of the end for me, I think, because although he did start me in a couple of games, I was never ever played in the position really that I was brought up to be played, what I trained for. From an apprentice professional to a professional, I trained to be a striker, and I was playing on the left side of midfield. You know what I mean?
Right.
I did get the odd times where I did play central alongside Keith Edwards, and but I was young and raw and still learning the game. You know what I mean? And I think talking Dutch then. I think it's that's the most disappointing thing for me, really, to be honest. That I was never actually played in the position that I trained to play in, and where I had a lot of success of scoring goals in the junior level reserve. Okay, it's a big step when you go from that level to one and then to the next, but and some people, some players. Are quicker of getting into the motion and into the rhythm and to the level of the game, and most probably I was a bit too slow starter in that, and I think a lot of it also coincided in the position that the club was in at the moment, because they didn't have a lot of patience with the young lads, local lads, when Mike came. So, and we had quite a few fallouts. And eventually that led to me deciding myself to leave. I just signed a 3-year contract, actually.
Okay. So, but I mean, you did get some goals that season, like you say, like
yeah,
away at Sheffield United.
Yeah,
must have been a good one.
United, Plymouth. I didn't get many goals, but like I say, I put it down to most probably because I wasn't always playing in the position where I'm used to playing. So, and when I did play up front and I played alongside Keith, we all know Keith's a legend, brilliant goal scorer. And but when I played alongside Keith, I was a young lad. I used to be doing all the channel runs and I used to working very hard. And, it was pouring off me and whatever. And Keith would walk into the dressing room at half time and it was cold, you know what I mean? But Keith wasn't a hard worker, and he'll tell you that himself, wasn't he? He was a goal. He said, "Get me the ball and I'll score you a goal," and he did that. So nobody could argue, you know what I mean? But he wasn't a gritty hard worker for the team. He was a prolific goal scorer, and the best goal scorer I've ever seen, to be honest. And I thought, I wish I could do that. Just do what he does. But I was young and I had to do all the horse work for him, and and he took the rewards, and he did that for years and years and years. Not through me, obviously, but when same happened with Big Billy. Yeah, Billy, he knocked them all around and what have you, and keeps saying, "Thank you very much, you."
Yeah.
Les Mewtwo, just the same. You know what I mean? But no, it's that really, that side of it disappoints me when I had all those years from being 14 years old to the day that I left, that I never really got a long enough chance to play central as a central striker.
Was that what year when you say you used to fall out with Mike Smith? Was it purely about position wise?
Yes, and also because I felt at the time, because I was scoring goals in the reserves and knocking on that I deserved a chance. You know what I mean? And I always felt that I was being held back, I suppose, and yeah. But yeah, a lot of it was because I was playing out of position. A lot of things, but not actually things that I'd done on the pitch, and that was something was didn't go to plan or the tactics and nothing like that at all. But he come, I suppose Mike come over as a school teacher, and it was a and I didn't like his I didn't like his ways of treating us as young lads how he did, to be fair, and like I say, I was a bit most probably lightweight for him, and most probably he didn't actually think I was strong enough to play down the middle, which is fair comment. But at the most, looking back now, but at that time I didn't look at it like that. Obviously, I had most probably too much fire in my belly.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the other, yeah, well, I'll answer that question first. I'll wait for the next.
No, go on, mate. Go on.
No, then also because Hull City was then in the third division, and then we'd also been in the fourth division. And Mike had bought one of his, I don't know if it was a good friend of his, Nick Deasy, who was a Welsh international. Obviously, Mike Smith being Welsh as well. He brought in Nick Deasy eventually. Then he brought in Les Muteri. And then he brought in Billy Whitehurst. So then I had like 3 signings that had just come for me in the line to play alongside Keith Edwards. You know what I mean? So I felt a bit pushed out as well. That my nose was being a bit, and which is the club needed results and they needed instant success, and most probably the club didn't have time and the patience for me or for Rob McDonald or for any other local lad. You know what I mean? So, but like I say, I think that played against us, to be honest, because of the situation that the club was in at the moment.
Mm.
Like I say, you have to buy to get instant, so it doesn't always work, but I think it did help. And I felt as though that I personally was pushed aside a little bit.
So at what point are you feeling like, yeah, I'm going to have to move here for my career kind of thing?
When they got Nick, and then when Les came, because obviously I played against Les for when we played Blythe Spartans in the FA Cup. And when Billy came as well, because Billy was cup tied. And I used to, when Billy was cup tied, I used to fill in at the FA Cup games. And I'd scored a couple of goals. I think it's quite known that we in the run with Blythe Spartans when we brought them back a replay in Ellen Road. And I think me and Stuart Croft, put us 2-1 up, and we went through it the next round, and we all know what happened then, I think, where we got Tottenham Hotspur and we got drawn away at Tottenham, and we played in that game, and I think I'd had a good, so by the comments what I'd heard from my colleagues and other people, I'd done well enough, and I can't remember which club we was. I can't remember where we was playing in the midweek game after the Tottenham game, and I think it was in London somewhere. I can't remember now. And before we left to go to an away game, they always give the squad and a piece of paper, A4 piece of paper, used to go on the notice board of how many people and which players were travelling. And after the Tottenham game, I wasn't even on that list of 14 players. And that destroyed me a little bit, I suppose. And I thought, then that's the time that it was time that I had to get away. And I even got in the Sun. I'm telling you new bits and pieces that I can remember. I remember a piece in the Sun where I was nominated for one of the players of the weekend or something like that, and you had to donate to a charity. You used to have in those times, over Daily Mirror, I can't remember. And reading that, and then on the Monday or the Tuesday morning before we were leaving for the game, I was not selected, and I suppose at the end of the day, I think it brought it home to me that I'm never going to get a chance here.
Mm.
I
What was
suppose.
it? I was just going to say, what was it like playing away at Spurs? Like nearly 40,000 in the crowd.
Like I think I mentioned earlier, speaking about the fanatical supporter of Hull City and whatever. I must also mention that even the Tottenham fans at that time, because they even applauded us after the game and they stayed down and applauded us off the pitch, because I think we held them until about 8 to 9 minutes before the end. And unfortunately, Gary Brook, a young Gary Brook, who played for Groningen afterwards in Holland, he came off the bench and scored a goal, and then Steve Archibald finished it with a 10, I think, with his left foot. Norman kept us in the game. Tony Norman kept us in the game all the game with fantastic saves. Obviously, we had our backs to the wall all the time. Don't get me wrong, you're playing against the first division. Then it was first division team, and then you think of players like Terry Yovis, Steve Perryman, Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles, Steve Archibald, Garth Crooks, Tony Galvin. Yeah, there was household names in the, and you know, it was really, really fantastic experience. I think it was 38,000 restricted, because I think, if I remember rightly, the area, the stand where the dressing room was being worked on at the time. So otherwise, it would have been more. But it was full out, and the whole City fans was. I think as we came out to the right hand side, when we came out, and that was packed out. That was, like I say, it was goose pimples, really was. And I think we did the club proud, and you know, we was all disappointed because I don't think a lot of people knew this, but we was promised if we brought them back to Boothferry Park, we'd get a free trip to Spain, or was going away on a little tournament or something like that. And obviously we lost that as well, so we lost more than an FA Cup game. But we did the club proud, I think, and the fans certainly did us proud as well, and I'm sure we did the fans all proud as well. You know, it was a fantastic day. And in them days, there was like Tottenham Hotspur, they were like the Barcelona of today. You know what I mean? And of PSG in England.
Yeah, I was going to say, were they like the toughest players you played against in a City shirt?
Yeah, I always remember Steve Perryman going into a tackle, Steve Perryman, and I've never forgot that. But one of the most difficult players that I played against, and we grew up together actually, not together, but playing against each other, was a young lad at Barnsley, and they called him Mick McCarthy.
I think Rob said the same thing actually. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I started was watching that, and I got distracted, and I had to turn it off. So it reminded me that to watch that further. Mick McCarthy. And there was a lad, and they called, I think it was at Oxford, and I think they called him Gary Briggs. Briggs is a lad at Oxford. But those two, they were fairly competitive players that there was at the time. A lot of off the ball incidents, and But Exeter, South Yorkshire, the thing at Barnsley was a local, eventually local derby, and it was always a bit of a fitness from junior level to reserve level, and we thought, well, I've got rid of him, and he ended up playing for Barnsley in the first team as well. So, but very difficult for them.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
And then just in terms of you move away from City, then like how did that come about?
Moving away from City, well, obviously I've explained why I did it, because of the other signings that came in, and I was pushed to the side. What can I best explain? So, actually, it was Dennis Booth who helped me. He was like the senior player at the time, and if we had a problem, we always used to go to Dennis and to speak, and he was like the player spokesman, shall I say. And obviously, you know, my relationship with Rob McDowell. and I knew Rob was playing in Holland. And Rob had actually mentioned, why don't you come across here if you're not happy? So I spoke with Dennis Booth about it, and he said, the best way to do it is to cancel your contract, because I'd already knew via Rob that there was a Dutch club that was interested, but they had a bit of financial problems, that they won't be able to pay a transfer fee. So Dennis advised me then at the time to cancel my contract, and then there would be no fee involved. So that's what I did. In hindsight, most probably, I should have waited, but anyhow, I did what I did at the time because I had too much fire in my belly. I'm very disappointed of how I was being treated, and I cancelled my contract. Just signed a 3-year contract, and I think within 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, that I was playing in Holland. For one of Rob's old teams, FC Wageningen.
Okay. I mean, one of the things Rob said was like, the thing you most noticed was the coaching and how different it was. Is that something you saw as well?
Yes, I think at that time, when Rob went to Holland, I think he went at the right time. Not only for him, also financially as well. And I think that the Dutch game actually suited Rob a lot better than it suited myself.
Okay.
Usually play with one striker, but I was still young and raw, you know what I mean? And I was only 21, and I like playing with 3 strikers, a right winger, a left winger, like the old Ajax system where they have a left winger and a right winger and a one down the middle. And it took a lot of getting used to. And having said that, I got used to it and I enjoyed it. And but the culture was totally different. It was more with the ball. Everything was with the ball in Holland. They want a lot of like doggies and horseshoes and around the track and sprints and what. You did that, but it was all ball work in Holland, more technical. That's more technical.
You had a good few seasons in Holland with like a few different teams. Did you enjoy your time obviously over there at that point?
Oh, I love the time there. I didn't really want to leave Wageningen, and it's still close to my heart now. And I've still got many friends in Wageningen, and I go back as often as I can. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, that the club had, unfortunately, had gone into financial problems. So I was the one that had to go because it was like a semi-professional club, and I was the only professional in the club. The other lads had to train. They had to go to work, and then they'd come about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening. We did our training every day, but I trained all day. But, I was there in the morning and one of it. But financial reasons, I had to leave, and I was scouted by an old Polish winger, Janusz Kowalik, who was a right winger many years ago for Poland. He was a manager of a Belgian side, and he saw me playing while he was a manager of a Dutch side in his time in Holland. And he obviously knew the situation, and we invited me for talks, and I went to Belgium, and that was FC Wintersland, which is now known as Racing Genk.
Okay, right.
It's now Racing Genk. So, and I stayed there, but unfortunately, due to my ex-wife, my late ex-wife, Kim, that ended after about a year because whilst playing in an away game, I returned home and she'd gone back to home. So
right.
Wasn't happy, homesick and whatever. And cut the long story short, so I followed, and that was the end of my time in Belgium.
Okay, right. So and then you ended up
Unfortunately, I wasn't transferred. The club didn't get rid of me. I had to. I chose my family life, and I went back to Hull. Went back to Kim, and but without going in too much into that thing, I started playing then because my contract I couldn't play anywhere professionally because the winter slag at that time held my contract.
Right, okay.
So, if anybody other came in for me, they'd have to pay a transfer fee. And anyhow, started playing as an amateur. And I think the best club was Grantham. I went to Grantham for Maggie Thatcher's team.
And then was it Gainsborough, then North Ferriby?
Gainsborough, and then went to North Ferriby. Fantastic club. Still got friends. Barry Johnson at North Ferriby. Still have a bit of contact. Roy Wallace. He was a director student at the time at North Ferriby, and lovely. Unfortunately, missed out at Wembley. We got to the FA Vase in the semi-final, and winning the away leg at Tamworth. I think I scored one from about 35 yards, put us 2-1 up, and then unfortunately we all froze. The week afterwards, where we lost the home game. Unfortunately, we didn't get to Wembley. But eventually it did happen for the club, which I'm really, really pleased for.
I went to that game actually.
Did you? Yeah. Well, I was at the game as well. One of the games where they got beat. I can't remember what.
Is that the Whitby one?
I can't. Yeah. Was it Sudbury? It was Sudbury.
I went to one where they lost against Whitby, and I went to one where they won. But that was at the old Wembley.
It's the one. Yeah, the old Wembley where they lost. Yeah. Well, my friend of mine, Timmy Ott, was managing.
Right.
He didn't know I was there. And if he's actually listens to this, now it's the first time he'll know that I was there. I was with a Belgian football team.
Right.
We've been playing a local team, Northwood, where I used to play for. I took a team over from here, all amateurs, and we had a long weekend in Hull. And on the way back, I planned the trip to Wembley, and that the players could also watch North Ferriby and being at Wembley as well, which all the Belgian people loved it. Great trip. Unfortunately, they lost, but I was at that game as well. And I was about 18 yards from Tim, and I was shouting my head off behind him, but he couldn't aim because of the noise and what have you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just, I was really pleased for the club. Deserve it.
Yeah, you mentioned Northwood. Was that and that picture with Deano? Is that where you met him?
Yeah. Well, you sent me that picture, and I've never seen that picture, and I can't recall it anyhow. But but Deano looks real slim on there, doesn't he?
Oh, he's what, 15 or something?
But I still talk to Deano now quite regularly. I think once a month, every couple of months, we're talking with each other. But but that was Northwood, and in fact, it was during his time at Northwood actually that Peter Winnan, he was a chief scout, one of the chief scouts of Sunderland, and I think during Deano's session at the club, which ended sadly, I think Pete Winnan helped him and picked him up and brought him back onto the circuit of the professional football scene. We all know what happens.
I mean, could you tell at that point he was going to be a player?
Yeah, being a great player. He was as slow as a tortoise, but he was a good player, really good player. I played with him at Ferriby. We had a good understanding. I played up front. He played in midfield, obviously, and we had a really good understanding. He was a really good player. The only thing I always thought he was most probably where some people are like too small. We always thought Gavin Thorpe was too small to play football, and you see what happened with Gavin. And I always thought he was most probably on a bit too slow. You know what I mean? But he made up for it with his intelligence and the knowledge of the game. and being well coached. He's done well for us. Like I say, we all know what's happened with Deano. He's a legend at the club, isn't he? So,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
but I've worked with Deano as well on the building site.
All right.
But not many people know that. So, but he don't put it in his books. I don't think he does. In fact, I nearly killed him.
Was that something to do with the toilet?
Yes. Oh, you
I've
know
heard,
about it.
I've heard this story, yeah.
Yeah. It's all true. It's all true.
But can you just tell a story for those on heard it?
Yeah. Well, actually, we was working for a guy called Chris Cooper, and I think what's the colour village? I can't remember can't remember. Just outside of Hull, North Cave, I think it was. And was at North Cave. Was on this building site, and there was like this grew Manny too, so on a forklift, and I got inside on the forklift because Deano had gone to the little toilet, the plastic, what they call them in English, the portable
Portaloo, yeah.
Yeah, Portaloo. And he got in there, but the Portaloo, it was on a pallet to keep it stable. So I got the fork, started it up, and I put the forks in the pallet, and I started lifting it, and I shouted to him, "Deano, don't move." And Deano, like as he does, didn't really listen. "What you doing?" I said, "Don't move." And he was sat. He'd already been on there 2 minutes, like on the toilet. And I got off the Manny too, and I didn't realise how high I'd sent him in the air. And it was at the height of the house,
Right.
just below the roof. And I got out and I said, "Deano, whatever you do, don't move." I said, "I'm going to bring you down real slowly." And he went, I could see the boat like moving like that. And I saw the door. I said, "Deano, don't open the door." And then he saw the opening, he saw how high he was, and he must have gone back onto the toilet. And with him going back to the toilet, the toilet started to move. And because I didn't have it centrally under, there was a bit over weight on one side, more weight on one side than on the other side. It went in it onto the floor. I thought I killed him. So when I got off the forklift truck, the toilet door was at the bottom, so I had to turn the toilet all the way around and I stood on the top of the toilet. I pulled the door open. There he was. "Where am I? Where am I?" And he had, well, I won't tell you what he was full of. It was from head to foot, and I had to carry him out, and we put him in the container where we kept all our materials from the work. We put him in. I said, "Deano, lay there, take your time." And he was starting to shivering and things like that. But we didn't have no mobile phones in them days. I was in North Cave, I can't ring anybody, so I just, But on the night time, we had a game for North Ferriby. We played at home, a home match.
Right.
Anyhow, it was okay, and we'd gone home together. And he says, "Nogger," he used to call me Nogger. He said, I still don't feel very well." I said, "You'll be all right, you'll be all right." I was just trying to convince him I was actually panicking myself. You know what I mean? And anyhow, we played the game at half time. At the game, he came off. Didn't feel too good. The next day, coming to work, he had 2 big black eyes. It was like a panda. It was it was unbelievable, unbelievable. But actually, yeah, I'm trying to in my broken English, trying to tell you the story, but it was unbelievable, unbelievable. Nearly killed him. I thought I'd killed him. Really did.
Yeah, I'm sure I've read that. It might be in his book. I've heard him say it at some point. Yeah, funny that.
Unfortunately, I've never read one because I'm here. I've never seen one. Never seen one of his books, but I don't think he'll put it in anyhow. He might on his speeches when he goes out on these celebrity speeches. He might tell
Yeah, that's maybe where I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, most probably. Yeah.
Just realised you skipped out your time in Japan as well. Like what took you there?
Telephone call from a Dutch guy, again, who'd seen me play in Holland and in Belgium. And rang me up 3 times or 4 times, I think it was. And every time I put the phone down because I thought it was someone, I won't say it on the Mickey, and which in the football world happens quite a lot. And he said to me, before you put the phone down this time, this is the last time I'm going to call. So if you put it down this time, the deal is off. I thought, I'll listen. And the guy was a Dutch guy. He introduced himself that he was manager of a Japanese team in Hiroshima. And that he also has a Dutch goalkeeper there, Dido Havenaar. And he'd like me, if I was, asked me if I was interested in traveling to Japan and joining them and playing football in Japan. And I said, well, if it's not a wind up, I said, yes, but I was explaining about my contract in Belgium. I don't know if I should say all this in live, all the ins and outs, because but at the end of the day, we got it sorted. He came over to, he told me that he would be in about 2 or 3 weeks, he would be in Holland at the Zeist, is that it's like the football association in Holland, that he had to be there. It's like the football association in England, should I say, but in Holland. He had to be there. And he said, can you arrange a ferry and pick us up, and then we'll come and watch a game for Ferriby, which I did. And cut a long story short, we played the game, didn't score, had a nightmare, to be honest. Played brick down. And I came into the players' lounge after the game, and the guy behind the bar from Brig, I don't know who he was, and he said, "Are you Craig?" I said, "Yes, Craig Norrie." Yeah. He said, "Here's a message for you." And just said, 8:30 Crest Hotel, Ferriby, tonight. So went to the hotel. Went to the hotel. There was in a room. They'd ordered a room, and the room was full of blue and white. They really decorated the room and presented to themselves. As you can imagine, Japanese people, there were about 3 or 4 Japanese guys, and Hans Ooft, the Dutch guy as well, the manager, and he talking, and eventually he offered me a contract, which I refused first. And he says, I said, I'll go downstairs and I'll have 10 minutes to think about it. And anyhow, after about 8 minutes, I went back upstairs. And signed a deal. And I went to, in 1986, I went to Hiroshima in Japan. And they call them now Hiroshima San Flecci. If you ever, they play in the Japanese First Division, anyhow.
Okay.
And I had 2 years there. Well, earlier I said I'd had an operation in Belgium on my groin, and then I found out that I needed another operation on the same groin whilst I was in Japan, and eventually that stopped me from playing professional football, should I say. So I was there from 86 to 88, had a 2-year contract, optional for the third, but obviously the third year didn't go ahead because of injury. So I had to retire from the game, unfortunately, at a professional level.
Mm.
So I was never really paid out by the FA. You know, when you get an injury, you get a payment. So I was never paid because I played. Had a choice to play semi-professional, and I took playing football semi-professional rather than take the money and not play.
Yeah.
I made that choice, and that's how I came again. McGrantham and Gainsborough and North Ferriby. And in the summer I played cricket.
Oh, I was reading someone on Twitter said you're a very good bowler, apparently.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah, I was a opening bowler. Yeah, left arm over the wicket. It was quite quick, so to say.
Yes, yeah. But just in terms of Japan, like, what was it like living and playing there for a couple of years? Like, what was the lifestyle like?
Ah, brilliant. Fantastic, beautiful country. I can only recommend to someone if they've got enough money and they've got enough time to go to Japan and definitely visit Hiroshima. It's because of the A bomb from many years ago. It's it is unreal. It is a fantastic place to go. You can actually with the War Museum and Memorial Park, and you can see the imprints on the concrete of the steps of bodies that have been burnt on the bomb from many years ago. It's really moving thing, to be honest. You have to see it in. I know it comes on the news like every year, you know, the memorial or something like that. But actually being there and seeing it yourself, you know, it's really an historian who likes things like that, you know what I mean? Or, it is really need to visit. But it's smashing people. Learned a lot from the Japanese people. A lot about discipline, respect, a very clean country. I really enjoyed my time in Japan. I was very sad to leave after 2 years because of injury, because I would really love to have stayed longer. But you know, unfortunately, that story came to an end through me groin injuries. To be honest.
So, like, obviously, you've settled in Belgium. What, like, how did that come about? What contributed to that decision?
Yeah, again, because I've left Hull City when I was 21. It was 21, yeah, 22, I think it was, 81, 82. And because I've lived in Holland, I've lived in Belgium. I came back to England for a couple of years, and then I went to Japan. And that age, I was all 28, yeah, 28, 29. And I came back to England, and I was working as a sales representative for East Yorkshire Glazing, where Tim Hott is. And I've worked for various other companies, but I couldn't settle. I was going, and I didn't want to be. Obviously, I had to work for the first time in my life, not being a professional footballer as well. That was a big step. And then because I've always worked or trained outside and been in the outside world, I couldn't get like in a like work at British Aerospace or something like that. I couldn't be inside somewhere, so I always had to be. So I chose to be a sales representative, and it worked a lot as well because of my name and who I was at the time, and I got a lot of sales, so that did help. Not because I knew about product knowledge, but yeah, that's that is the reason. Yeah, that is the reason. But the get back to Belgium, yeah, and I thought I have to get away, and I was getting there, so I left, and I had a contact in the area where I first played football, and they offered me to go into a business with him and his associate, and I gave up my job. I think I was working at DIG Barrett at the time. Give up my job and went over to Holland to sort the deal out. Came back, sorted everything here out. In England out, and I went back to Belgium to get the lorry to bring my furniture back to Belgium. And the partner from the CEO, he decided that he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to go into a business for the three people. He wanted to stay as just the two. But I'd sold everything. You see, I'd got rid of everything. So I went back. I went back to Belgium, and with all my belongings, with no job, no future, anything. And anyway, I eventually got a job in the building industry. I had a little bit of experience of that with working with Deano and Colin Cooper, the company of Collins. And I started working in the building industry as a labourer. And I worked my way up to being a foreman. And to this day, well, I haven't worked now for 2 years because of Corona. But to this day, I've always been in the building industry, and to be fair, I was quite proud of myself that I've, from a professional football player to a building in the building industry, and being a foreman and speaking a different language and being the boss of them as an English guy. I suppose I've achieved more than being playing football. You know what I mean? It meant a little bit more. It was because I wasn't very handy or anything like that. If I had to hang anything up on the wall, I'd not probably hammer a nail in the wall like that. I know, but it'd stay there. You know what I mean? But it never used to do. But now it's okay. I can plant a house and mark it all out, and from being a field to the roof on the top, I can do it all. Not all myself, but I know everything what I need to do. Should I say? So I'm quite proud of that. But now it's nearly time for retirement. So
yeah, fair play, mate. Yeah.
I'm using Corona now as an escape not to work.
All right, that's it, Craig. I appreciate your time, mate.
No
just finish on some social media questions. Dave Batty says, who was the biggest influence on your career at City?
The biggest influence on my career at City, yeah, I suppose Chillo. To be fair, on the coaching side, Ken Houghton, very thankful of. John Kay, been very thankful of. I used to room with Roger de Vries, if you remember Roger. And I used to room with Roger, and Roger was very, very helpful. Quite a few people, but the names that I've really mentioned there. Rob's always been a good friend, still is today. Yeah, Boothie for helping me to do eventually what I did. I think those guys stand out.
Yeah. And then one from Mark Fisher. He says, the Yorkshire Post once printed a story that the club, that City were thinking about re-signing you a couple of years after you left. How close was that to happening? Or is it a rumour?
To be really honest, that is the first time I've known about.
Right, okay.
To be honest, when I've read somewhere on, I don't know, I think it's Cloud 7, that I'd had a time at another Belgian club as well. I'm just trying to think the club. I can't think of the club, but there was another club that was Leicester or something like that.
Yeah.
I've never been there. So it was just the clubs that were mentioned: Hull City, Wageningen, Winterslag, Mazda, and then the amateur semi-professional clubs that I've mentioned. But the other one is not true. But I didn't know about that. I did have a chance, and I should have waited. To be honest, I was a bit too much fire in my belly. I should have waited a little while before I went to Holland, because if I'd have been a little bit more patient, I did find out that Luton Town at the time was interested in signing me. So, but I'd already gone, unfortunately. That's something I do regret, is being a bit too hasty in going abroad. I was probably a little bit too raw and a little bit too young.
Yeah. Holland sounds a bit nicer than Luton, though, to be fair.
Well, it does, and I suppose it was it sounded like an adventure. You know what I mean? So I suppose that's a small regret. I was a little bit too hasty in making the decision. But like I said, I was young and I had too much fire in my belly, and I was very hurt by Senior Mike Smith.
All right.
I've heard that he's passed away, sadly.
Okay, right. That's spot on, Craig. Nice one.
I've done. I haven't spoken in English for this long for 30 years.
Wow. What is that? Is it Flemish where you are then?
Yeah, Flemish. Yeah, Dutch. And it's also because I do a lot of travelling here. I've got a motorhome. I think in England they call it a van.
Camper van, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been having these rows for years. A van is something that you go to work in. A motorhome is something that you travel around in. You sleep in and things like that. So for leisure. But anyhow, I've got a motorhome, and we do a lot of travelling. And I speak quite a lot of German, and so obviously speaking different languages, and it's not very often I get a chance to use English.
Yeah. How often?
That's why most of this interview is done longer than what it most probably should do.
No, it's been spot on, mate. How often have you seen City play over the years, or not much?
Live once.
Did you go to Lochran? No.
No, I was actually asked to go there by somebody, and I can't remember. I think it was by Radio Humberside, and someone had rang me and asked if I would go there and on for the Belgium side, give all the information to the viewers in Hull. But because I didn't have much knowledge, well, I did have, but I didn't have much knowledge of the club locker itself, and I didn't really know the players. I didn't think it was appropriate and good of me to say, well, yeah, I'll go and do it. But then I'd have to do a lot of research and things like that, you know what I mean? And I think something like that must come natural. You have to be in the game and follow things like that to give the viewer or the listener the information what they require, to be honest.
Mm.
I just felt that I'd most probably be telling things that I'd read, you know what I mean? And I won't be able to tell them anymore. You know, if you're a commentator like Rob Barman, he'll tell you and he'll give you all the history about the player when he goes to toilet, what time he goes to bed, and things like that. Well, I didn't have those details, so no, something like that. And yeah, I think you've got to feel comfortable about, you know, even doing this now. I don't feel all confident because although I am English and born and bred in Hull, I'm very proud of it. Rob actually speaks better English than I do because he has a lot more communication. He goes back and forward to Hull more than I do as well. You see, he has more to do with the English language than I do. So,
right.
Sounds strange, but
yeah. So you've not seen as many times then recently?
No. I think the last time I saw Rob was a couple of years ago, and I think FC Wageningen was 100 years. We used to still play together because we used to play like testimonial games.
Yeah.
And we used to play now and again. And now the last time I was there, me and him was managers.
Right.
We managed the team.
What, together or?
Yeah, we managed.
Right.
The old professionals then. We actually managed the team as well because the guy who originally did it unfortunately passed away. So we two English guys was managers of the Dutch team and full of all Dutch professionals. But in Holland it's not so bad because everybody's bad. It's just the registry all English in Holland anyway.
Yeah. Did you win the game?
We drew actually, and then we lost it on penalties.
Ah, fair.
The managers took a penalty each.
How'd you get on?
Don't ask. I tried to do one of those Bianca, one of comes in.
Nenka?
Yeah. Didn't make. Just went straight into his hand. So the lads weren't too pleased. No, got me on penalties. At least I'm honest. Yeah. I could have told you I put it into the top corner.